Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday program, and also welcome to our online viewers. We'll start with a small kirtan, then Madhava Puri Prabhu, he'll join us and continue with kirtan and then lecture. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Haribol, Nitai Gora Haribol, Nitai Gora Haribol, Haribol, Nitai Gora Haribol, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Shila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Nam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you for the kirtan, Vishnu. Madhava Puri Prabhu, please. Do you need a chair or?
It's time to do the lecture.
You can have some kirtan and then lecture.
Madhava?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Do you want to be on a chair or?
Yeah, if it's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. You know how to play this?
A little bit.
Yeah?
Maybe you try. Is this a microphone for you?
Okay.
Do you mind if you move a little bit?
I should move there, okay.
You're streaming.
All right. Are you streaming?
Yeah. Are you going to play harmonium?
No. I think I played the cartel.
Small, big? Big, small?
Yeah, small, thank you. Maybe one of each. Thank you.
Do you think you need a microphone? The speaker, do you need a microphone? Or?
No, I don't think. I mean, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hare Krishna. So how long do we do this?
1 hour, I think.
A full hour?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Let's see, we have some time for questions and discussions here. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 We've been practicing, but you know. So, thank you for coming. We are celebrating, if I may say so, the disappearance day today of one of our great spiritual teachers. His name is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We have a nice picture of him here. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yes. Yes, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Here is Srila Prabhupada, who brought Krishna consciousness to the West. And here is his spiritual master, and his spiritual master, and his spiritual master. And this is called a chain of disciplic succession. So every new generation learn the science of Krishna consciousness from the previous generation. That's how it's been working most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then the originator of the spiritual knowledge, which is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has to speak it again, because some or another this tradition had been broken. And hadn't it not been broken 5,000 years ago, then maybe we wouldn't have had the Bhagavad Gita, because that's exactly what happened. Krishna explains to his disciple or next generation, Arjuna, that the succession was broken and now he had to come and speak this knowledge again. And he explains this is the royal knowledge and the most secret knowledge. Raja Vidya Raja Gujam. The Bhagavad Gita was spoken in less than an hour, I don't know, something like that, to Arjuna. This 18th chapter, and that is the ABC book of yoga. And yoga, the word yoga means to connect, to link. Has the same meaning like the word religion. Re means again, and religion, ligare, means to connect or to tie together relationship. Huh? So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, whose disappearance, actually, one may call it death, we celebrate today, was one of those great spiritual teachers. How come you celebrate the death of somebody? Well, one may ask. The explanation is given also in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna explains that never was there a time when I didn't exist or you didn't exist or any of these kings, and never will that time be where we do not exist. So the persons, we were talking about it the other day out in the farm with the volunteers here, when the body dies, the person moves on. And many times it's because of old age, that the body is just too worn out, it's painful, or it's a disease, which is also painful, or it could be some lethal violence, which is also painful. So in any event, a celebration is there that now it's end of the suffering in this body, and now you can go on and suffer in the next, which is the case for most of us, but we don't stop to exist, at least. Why do we suffer at all? Srila Prabhupada explained that it's just simply a reminder that we, as spirits, we don't belong in this world of suffering. So we take one body after the other, and it is explained in the old scriptures that there are millions and millions of different bodies that you can assume. As we know, we have the moving living beings, like the humans, we move around, and there are the reptiles and the insects and the birds and the fishes and, you know, all kinds of living beings. But you also have the non-moving living beings, which are the trees and the creepers and the different herbs and moss and all kinds of living beings that display some kind of consciousness, but are very limited in the way they move around. So this brings me to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who's very expertly explained this science, where he classifies the living beings in different categories. The difference between a stone and a living being is that the stone does not display any symptoms of consciousness whatsoever, but the living beings do. Like there are the different phases where they are created and they grow and they may wither down and die. So we see that also in trees and in grass and herbs, fungus, mushrooms, all the plant kingdom. They have some, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls budding consciousness. You know, when you have a flower, it starts with a little bud, which is not opened. But then, as the consciousness evolves more and more, it's like a flower that opens up and becomes manifest beautifully. So the budding living beings, the living beings with budding consciousness, they're very primitive. You know, one can see maybe that a plant can grow around corners and avoid obstacles and stuff like that. But more than that, we don't see. Anyone can come with a saw and take down a tree without any protest. If you would do the same with, you know, a dog or a cat or a human being, they will run away because they don't want to go through that suffering. But then you have the beings with more elevated consciousness. You have the moving living beings, like cats and dogs and hogs and camels and asses and human beings like that. And we all share certain instincts. We all need to sleep, right? Yes. When we're tired, we need to take rest. And we need food to sustain the body. It's important. If you don't eat, the body will die. And that's kind of unnecessary. We need to protect ourselves and defend against dangers. Like there are other beings that want to kill and eat our bodies like that. So we are on alert to protect ourselves and fight against these threats. And then the moving living beings, they also want to multiply. They want to create new, smaller bodies for the same species. So the dogs and the cats and others and human beings, they have sex with the basic function of multiplying the species. And of course, it feels good, otherwise nobody would be interested. And if nobody would be interested, then there would be no more bodies, no more species. Some or another, the human beings, they kind of many times forget about the important factor here. That means to multiply the species. They are mainly focusing in that it feels good, but that's a different story. So human beings have more elevated consciousness. But frankly speaking, most human beings today are mostly engaged in eating, sleeping, mating, and fighting, defending, just like the animals. So therefore, these human beings are sometimes called dvipada pashu. Dvi means two, pada means feet, and pashu means animal. So if you live a human form of life with basically only exercising your animalistic instincts, then even though we may be more sophisticated, we go to fine restaurants and we have computer-controlled beds, and we live in fancy houses with air condition and stuff. On the basic principle, we are not more advanced than any animal whatsoever. However, as a human being, we also have superior intelligence, and that superior intelligence we can use to go to university and learn how to become more sophisticated when it comes to eating, sleeping, multiplying, and fighting. Or we can also use it to contemplate very, very important philosophical questions, like what's the whole point? Why does the world exist? Why do I exist? Who am I? What happens after death? The other moving living beings, they don't really get into that line of thought because they're too busy, struggling, working hard to be able to provide food, sex, protection, and defense for ourselves. But back to Thakur, he makes a distinction between human beings and other moving bodies. And the first category he talks about, he calls the immoral atheist. Immoral atheist. There are two words here. Atheist means somebody who's not at all interested in the truth beyond the senses. If there is some superior power, if we can call it God or whatever it is, they're basically only interested in trying to enjoy the senses and avoiding suffering. And they are prepared to do that by whatever means possible. You can beg, borrow, steal, commit any crime, cause suffering for others, because these people are immoral atheists. So obviously, if you have atheists, you must have theists. And if you have immoral people, you must have moral people. And basically, moral is a set of rules which makes the society somewhat civilized. Because if everybody would just steal and commit violence and cause suffering for others, there will be chaos in society. With a moral society, at least we follow some basic moral rules of justice. And, like in this society, we have a system of justice and police, and we have prisons, so that the grossly immoral people, they have to go to prison so that they don't cause disturbance for the rest of the society. So if you have the immoral atheists on the first level of human beings, then comes the moral atheists. Still people who are not very interested in something spiritual or divine, some God or supreme power, but at least they are moral, like this. They follow some basic system of justice, fairness in dealings, like that. And but they are not theists, they're still atheists. Like a big portion, for example, the moral atheists may have a need for spiritual things, but they don't want to have anything to do with any God, or they also don't believe that there is any soul. So if you find spiritual people who don't believe in any supreme power and don't believe in the soul, that's a description that fits quite good in Buddhists. A Buddhist don't believe in a God, and they don't believe in a soul. A very complicated explanation or what is the ego or the identity, like the sum total of all the sense perceptions and this and that. So the main Buddhist philosophy is actually atheistic, but at least it's moral. It believes in some kind of justice, and many Buddhists, they study some kind of philosophy, they do rituals and ceremonies, they chant mantras, they do meditation, but it has nothing to do with any divine being or supreme power or with the soul, because the definition of religion and yoga is that you have a supreme being, you have a soul, and you have some kind of scientific method how to reconnect that relationship. So if there's no soul, there's no God, then there cannot be any religion, obviously. So in any case, Buddhism is counted as one of the world religions for some reason, but strictly by definition, mainstream Buddhism, specifically Zen Buddhism, is not a religion because there's no God and there's no soul. But they are moral, so they're better people. Many Buddhists are vegetarians or vegans because a main portion of Buddhism is to minimize the suffering. The immoral person don't care, I take your money, and if you suffer, it's your business. I don't care. I take your money, or I beat you up because I want your house or your girlfriend or whatever. I don't care about your suffering. But even though Buddhists and others, they're atheists, they care for the moral, so they have some justice, right? So we covered the immoral atheist and we covered the moral atheist. What comes now? Immoral theist? No, there's no such thing. But theist comes. If you're a theist, you believe in a supreme, you believe in religion, you understand that even the moral rules, the principles of religion comes from a supreme power, and you follow them. So if somebody claims to be a theist but does grossly immoral things, for example, causing trouble to others, killing or molesting children, beating children, this person is not even a theist. He's an atheist, because a theist automatically follows the moral code given by God. That's a moral theist, right? And moral theists understand that by following the religious principles, that means principles that are meant for our upliftment, for our further upliftment, our consciousness, more and more away from the animal platform. These people follow what we call dharma. Dharma is another word for religious duties. Dharma is interesting because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote a whole book called Jaiva Dharma. Jaiva is coming from the Sanskrit word jiva, which means the eternal living being. That's you in a nutshell, taking sometimes an animal body or a plant body or a human body, and a female body and a male body, etc. So they're different, but still you are a jiva, you're a spirit soul. So jiva dharma or jaiva dharma means religious duties that are concerned with the eternal being. That means that regardless of what kind of body you have, that dharma is the same. I will come to that. But before we come to that dharma, we discuss something called naimitika dharma. That's a temporary dharma, which has very much to do what kind of body you have. So in the old Vedic system, we had different categories of people depending on whether you're like a leader, a person of knowledge, like a priest or a teacher or something like that, that gives direction to people. They teach you, how to lead a successful life. And then you have one category who are the administrators, the managers, or the executive branch, like police, military, like corporate leaders. They make things happen. Just like when you have a company, like Coca-Cola, you may have a board of directors. They are the leaders. They take out the policy and direction in which we should run this company. And then you have the CEOs or the executive branch that take the direction from the board and carry out their decisions, make it happen. And then there is a third out of 4 categories. The third one are those who are providing the wealth or sustenance of the rest of the society. You speak about farmers, and farmers, they produce food. Without food, the society can't survive. So the leaders, they don't produce food, and the manager, executives, they don't produce food, but the enterprise people, those who have their own farms, or they produce food, they grow grains, they take care of animals, like taking care of cows, so they give milk, etc. You can do butter and cheese. And so these are the mercantile class. The leaders is the head, the thinkers. They point out, you go there, you go there. And the executive branch are the arms. They make sure things are happen, right? And the mercantile class is the belly. That's the storehouse of the wealth. Also, the bankers are considered to be the entrepreneurs. They make sure that the society will work properly. And finally, the largest category of people is the laborers, the labor class, the legs, the foundation which the whole society rests upon. You recognize, if you studied your history in school, you have the peasants, you have the bourgeois, you have the priests, and you have the nobility. So we had this feudal society in like medieval Europe or something, with the exact same classes like you find in the Vedic description of people. You have the leaders, you have the managers, you have the entrepreneurs, and you have the workers. Then if all follow their respective dharma in a moral way, you have a civilized human society that works nicely. Moreover, you have the male dharma and you have the female dharma. Female dharma, women are called stri in Vedas, and that includes certain functions that belongs to the female body, to be caring and nourishing, to give birth to children, take care of them, provide in the house. Very traditional values. If you speak like that in America today, you will go to prison, because America is now run by the transgender ideology. And don't get me started on that, because that's a disaster. They will want to remove all morality from this planet. So even though we are not against transgender people, there have been, since time immemorial, people who have an orientation which is not the norm. I'm not talking if it's bad or good. I'm saying the norm is those that multiply the species, because that's how the universe works. And there are these who do not do that. That's fine. It's been happening since beginning of the universe, but never has there been accepted to be, like we have the Pride month now, I think on June, everybody's celebrating the Pride. So I think we should have the family month, where we celebrate the traditional family with a man and a woman and some children, because they're getting more and more pushed down in today's society, which is another topic whatsoever. But there's a dharma, there's a religious principle. So being a good man, being a good husband, being a good wife or a woman actually elevates your consciousness and bring you closer to a spiritual destination, because you fulfill the dharma, the principles of religion, and you are a moral person. So that is all described, and has nothing to do really with spiritual life per se, because the purpose of spiritual life is given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Vedaishcha sarvair aham eva vedyo vedanta krid eva ved eva chaham. By this Veda means spiritual knowledge, you should know me. I'm the compiler and I'm the knower of Veda. And by this process of Vedic knowledge, you will reach me and you will develop a relation or reawaken your relationship. And what's the use of relationship if there's no enjoyment? So the goal with relationship is exchange of love, like that. If you are a moral theist, or even if you're a moral atheist, you are part of a somewhat civilized society, But that doesn't mean that your heart is full of love for God, for all God's living beings, all our sisters and brothers in this world. But that comes gradually when your consciousness is elevated and your heart has been purified by the wrongly applied animalistic instincts like that. That brings me to another topic, which is quite interesting. Now when we know these categories of human beings, from the almost unconscious to the budding, to the sprouting consciousness, we come to the moving living beings, then we come to the human beings, where you have the immoral atheist, the moral atheist, the moral theist. Then you come to the next level, where there's people who are actively practicing the science of spiritual life. Those people are regularly going to church. Those are regularly visiting the synagogue or the mosque or the temple, and they say their prayers. So they follow something called sadhana. That means a practice of spiritual life. Many people believe in God. My parents, lovely people, they went to church once a year. That was the day after Christmas evening. So it kind of proves that they are God-fearing people that try to be moral, but they were not actively, like on a daily basis, getting up in the morning, saying prayers, studying sacred literature, whether it's the Bible or the Torah or the Bhagavad Gita or the Quran or something like that, and then following different religious principles according to your situation. Because when it comes to religion, we have to understand it's universal. And now we're coming to a platform where it pertains to the soul. It's not that all women are religious, but all men are not, or vice versa. Religion has nothing to do with your body. A woman or a man or a child can be religious. One can discuss whether a dog or a cat or a tree can be, probably not. But as a human being with somewhat elevated consciousness, you can be practicing religion like this, according to your level of understanding. So religion was not created like in Palestine for 2,000 years ago, or in the Middle East, on the Arabian Peninsula, like whatever it was, 1,400 years ago, or in the Far East, or in Africa, or in South America. But religion has been practiced everywhere since time immemorial. But what is interesting here, that in these areas there is some person like Lord Jesus Christ, like the Prophet Muhammad, or somebody else who is very prominent and kind of helping God re-establishing the religious principles. And therefore the different religions, like they become known. Like in the Old Testament you have Abraham. He gave rise to the Judaism and Christianity and Islam, because we share the Old Testament knowledge. But then Christianity, they had Jesus Christ. Islam, they had the Prophet Muhammad. And the Jews, they're still waiting for their Messiah. So this is all to create a theistic, civilized society, which is bringing you closer to God. And if you're actively performing religious principles, you're actually doing the dharma, or the religious duty of the soul. And that goes on from life after life. You may be a Jew in this life, and you can take your birth as a Christian in the next, and become maybe Hindu or whatever. And whatever religions there are on other planets, I have no idea. Because it's stated there are spiritual souls in all stellar bodies in the whole universe. We know life on this planet because it's carbon-based, and we have fish, insects flying in the air, etc., and we are human beings. We have some similarities, but the soul has nothing to do with the material condition, because the soul is eternal, has always been, will always continue to exist. So whatever body you have, fish, insect, human being, bird, when that body is killed, you go on to the next body. That is the principle of reincarnation. Reincarnate, again in the meat, again in the flesh, right? But the religious duty that you perform to the soul, Krishna explains in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Neha bikrama nasusti pratyuvayam vidyate svapam apyasya dharmasya triyate mahatobayat. In this endeavor, there is no loss nor diminution. Even a small progress can protect you from the most dangerous type of fear. So when you come to the level that you consciously choose, yes, I want to follow some kind of scientific, spiritual practice in whatever religion that I feel suit my needs, then in that endeavor, there's no loss, no reduction, because it has to do with the soul. Whatever you do with the body, if you become the world's most famous woman, the world's most rich gentleman, or whatever, you get the Nobel Prize 3 times. When the body is finished, all that is finished. But whatever progress you do on the spiritual platform in connection with the soul, that you bring with you to the next cycle of birth and death. So it's explained that if you make 1% progress in this lifetime, the next life you start from 2% and you move on like this. And the whole idea with performing regulated religious duties, or what is also called devotional service, you serve God with devotion. That is, that at one point your heart has been freed from all egoistic motives, because many people, they realize that if you follow some simple religious practice, then you are being rewarded. Obviously, like you go to school, you do your homework, you write your thesis, you get good grades, and then you can quit school and get a good employment, make good money, and enjoy life. So you follow this temporary bodily dharma, then you get artha, you get wealth, you get prosperity, you get rewarded. And with wealth, you can enjoy. You can buy a big house, you can attract people, you can buy good eating and drinking, travel to the Seychelles or whatever and enjoy. So that's a process to encourage us to take up some sort of dharma. But we pray for something for me. I want money, I want a beautiful wife or husband, I want a new car, I want to be cured from cancer, I want this, I want that. So it becomes like a gimme, gimme, gimme religion. No harm. It's a good step in the right direction. But the point, you give up those selfish motives and say, my dear God, like some American president was kind of clever. He said once, don't ask what you can do for your nation. Don't ask what the country can do for you. Yeah. Don't ask what the country can do for you. Ask what you can do for the country. That means you serve. That's the slogan of the police in America, I think, to serve and protect. That's what they're supposed to do, at least. Not beat up and kill black people, but that's another story. So to serve and protect. So the service attitude is there. Whether you have a romantic budding relationship with some person that you love romantically or erotically, you try to please that person. Or if it's with a friend, your best friend forever, you try to please him or her. Or if it's with your son and daughter or with your parent, you try to please them to be a good person like that. So this pleasing somebody is actually an expression of love and affection. Yeah. If I'm involved in a loving relationship with a beautiful, intelligent person, like Albina here, for example, then I find out what is her favorite pizza, and I buy it for her, or even better, I learn how to make it for her. What's her favorite clothes? I bring her to the shop that sells those clothes. What's the favorite music? Then I make sure that, you know, she can get a Spotify or something with that kind of music, or, you know, all the poetry, everything that is pleasing to the senses. What are her favorite flowers? You know, same thing with a friend, you know. I want to be friend with Prabhu here, for example. What's your favorite movie? Yeah, let's go there. I buy you a ticket. And then we go out and we have a beer or whatever, you know. Whatever it is that makes your friendship more enjoyable. And then he does the same to me, because it's reciprocal. You serve somebody and they serve you back. That even is the case when you serve God. God becomes, what is the word? I lost the word. He gives back.
Reciprocation.
Huh?
Reciprocate.
Yeah, he reciprocates. He becomes indebted. That's the word I'm looking for, indebted. I've served you a lot and said, oh, Madhava Puri has given me so lot. I mean, I should do something. Next time we will invite him to my home and we'll cook him a feast. And, so it becomes mutual expressions of love. Whether you're a friend, a parent, a child, or a romantic lover, whatever it is. So, and the juice of that is love. I teach people in our farm that we are putting some emphasis on, I mean, you should come and just enjoy breakfast. It's like oh my God, every day. So it becomes a way, I'm going to cook this really nicely now so that everybody else will be happy, they will enjoy, So this is the basis of service. The basis of service is love. You serve somebody because you want to intensify the love, you want to please that person. And if the person is not pleased, you find out, oh, what did I do wrong? How do you want it instead, I served you pizza, but maybe you wanted to have, bratwurst and sauerkraut. I don't know, So then next time I will do that because that's what you want. So you see how the consciousness is evolving more and more and more and more. Then ultimately it becomes a consciousness of loving reciprocation, like that. So we've gone all the way, unconsciousness, non-moving beings, moving beings, immoral atheists, moral atheists, moral theists, those who perform their spiritual practice in a systematic way, and those who come to the platform where the heart is freed from egoistic motives. They say, I don't care if you beat me or crush me in your embrace, I'm still going to serve you because I'm completely attracted to you for whatever reason. I don't want anything from you. Like, if you're famous, maybe I want to stand next to you because you're famous, and then maybe I will be famous. None of that. I just serve you, please you, unconditionally, no strings attached. You call me in the middle of the night in a snowstorm and your car doesn't start. I don't care. I leave my cozy warm bed and I jump in my car, and then I go to try and rescue you, even though it's freezing cold, and I have to shovel away the snow and get you out of there. It's totally uncomfortable for me, but because I have love for you, I do it anyway, right? So this is the topmost platform also of love of God, when it's unconditional. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining this whole, we can call it a ladder. So the whole of Bhagavad Gita explains how you can have a comfortable life by observing rules and regulations and different religious principles. You should do this, you shouldn't do that, and etc., etc. But then at the very, very end, he gives a cliffhanger. And he says, what's the use of all these principles? Just give them up. Just surrender unto me. Just come, fall in my arms, And love doesn't follow any rules, but you have to be on that platform. It's nothing that we can imitate falsely. I'm so spiritually advanced. I don't have to, I can eat pigs and still love God purely. No, it doesn't work out. So what pure devotees do, pure lover of God, they still continue to give the example for others to follow. Like Srila Prabhupada, he was describing this whole process for the whole society very beautifully in a letter that he wrote to the Deputy Prime Minister of India in 1949. It's about 85 years ago, something. It's a long, long time ago. So he wrote it in four stages. And the last stage is actually the establishment of the civilized society. Because as I said first, it does not have much to do with spiritual life. To follow your duty, to be a good man, to be a good woman, to be a leader, administrator, entrepreneur, or a good worker, a proud worker. This just means you follow the basic structure, the way this universe was set up. So Srila Prabhupada, he waited until last. And he also said this mission is not finished. He got old. He was about to leave the world himself. And he said, well, you guys have to do it. You have to show the example of a civilized society. So even if you're a pure devotee, pure lover of God and all his beings, you still have to set the example of showing a civilized society, a pattern. But the other three things he did, and the first step, which is the most powerful one, he gave knowledge. The knowledge is required because this world is a world of tama. Tama means ignorance. We don't know these things. I'm sure those of you who came here today, hopefully you heard one or two things that you never heard before. That comes from this spiritual knowledge, which is rarely, if ever, taught in today's schools. Today's school, you're taught how to develop in a way that gives you good wealth, fame, sense gratification. You can have a successful materialistic life. So that's basically what's been taught in today's school. But the spiritual knowledge, this Raja Guyam, Raja Vidyam, the secret of the kings, the secret of all knowledge, secret of how to, what's the use of the whole existence? What is the meaning of my life? What's the purpose? What is the best next step? That is given in the Vedic literature, like the Bhagavad Gita. And after the Bhagavad Gita, like last chapter, Krishna says, give up this dharma, you surrender unto me. And this surrender is unconditional. The next step of the ladder, that scripture is called Srimad Bhagavatam, or the Bhagavad Purana. It starts by this pure love. They don't want to describe anything material. You do like this, you get a healthy body. You do like that, you get money. You do like this, you get a big house. No, this is off the limit. It's just about unselfish love, being with God, being with his devotees. So Prabhupada gave that. He spent a lot of time translating this literature from Sanskrit, which is the world's oldest language. The script is called Devanagari, the way you write it. Deva means God, and Nagari is the script of the gods. So he just translated from that, and also from Bengali, which is a cousin or relative of Sanskrit. Many books about this sublime science of Krishna consciousness, how you become, just like you become obsessed almost by the thought of your beloved. You think about this boy or the girl all the time. They are gone. Oh, I wish I would be together with them. Or next Saturday we will go out. And you think about this. So this is the thing. The Krishna Bhava, or the Krishna consciousness, is there. So you learn that, how to gradually elevate your consciousness to that platform and totally, completely free yourself from all suffering, because you no longer have to be reminded of who you are truly, or why you're here. So the knowledge is there in the book, and then you have the most powerful method of reawaken your true self and your spiritual consciousness. Because just like we have dharma, we have religious duty or principles for the different categories of persons, like the priests or the teachers and the administrators and the entrepreneurs, etc., and for women and for men respectively. We also have in each millennium, like the universe goes through different phases. Just like we once were children, we grew up to young kids and adolescents, teenagers, adults, old people, and then we die. So the universe also evolves, the increase of entropy, whatever they call it. So in different millennium or age, you have different methods, which are the recommended method to reawaken your consciousness and maintain it on a spiritual platform. And in this day and age, society is quite degraded, as we see more and more. So the method has to be simple enough for everyone to be able to perform it, but at the same time powerful enough to have the desired effect. So the method for this day and age is called Harinam Sankirtan. Harinam means the names of God. The names of God are non-different. If I say chair, that's just a word, and the object is different. So if I say apple, 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 there's no apple here, what I can see, but the word apple is there. But when you say the word God, or Krishna, Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, wherever name you have, Vishnu, the God is there present in the name. So by reciting, chanting, meditating on the names of God, you're inviting his presence in your consciousness, in your heart. So therefore we chant these mantras, particularly the greatest mantra, this Maha mantra. Maha means the great one, which we chanted just now. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's a very, very, very powerful mantra to clear out all ignorance from the heart, make you enlightened, make you free from suffering, make you very harmoniously situated on a liberated platform, free from suffering. So this is the recommended dharma or religious process for this age. But at the same time, we should follow the processes, setting an example how it is to be a civilized human being moral, being theist, being a good woman, being a good man, being a good family, etc., like that. So that was the first step. So Prabhupada was alone, and he was translating all these texts. He was giving out his own magazine called Back to Godhead magazine with articles about Krishna consciousness, about God consciousness. And he was sitting down, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, trying to inspire others to join in. Because it's fun. Everybody likes singing, So it's fun to sit down and just chant. That was the first step in his strategy. The second step, which he was referring to in this letter to the Prime Minister, was that once you have many people, you erect places of worship, then you build temples, or you make a little preaching center like this one. So if we wouldn't be here, we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people today, nobody would come. But now we know already that we have interested people in chanting, meditation, mantra. Word mantra comes from mana, the mind, trayati, to liberate. So the mantra means you liberate your mind. So we have many people that it would be meaningful to have a little place in the middle of Malmö and meet regularly. That was the second step. So Prabhupada wanted to have places of worship, temples where you can chant and sing, meditate, speak, listen and hear the philosophy, and they have different ceremonies and rituals together. So that was the temple thing. And then the next one, the third, was that once one is sincerely engaged and seriously engaged in the religious practice on a regular basis, then one is qualified to approach a teacher, a spiritual teacher, who knows the science of spiritual life, of bhakti yoga, the yoga of love for God, and he can teach you, he can give you personal instructions, and he can actually take you out of this miserable world and send you back home, back to God. So that's the third thing. You receive initiation. The spiritual master initiates you into tradition. Okay? So first you learn the philosophy, you practice the chanting of the holy name by japa, by meditating on the rosary beads, or by sitting down in a group, chanting together like we just did. And then you come to a place of worship where the same thing go on. Service, somebody's cooking some nice meal to be served out, somebody's keeping clean, etc., etc. And then finally one is qualified to receive initiation and become part of the spiritual tradition. And then the fourth one, which Prabhupada didn't really succeed to establish, was to establish this Varna Ashrama Dharma, the civilized society based on the proper temporary duties of men and women, leaders, administrators, entrepreneurs, and workers, to have a fully functional society directed by justice in all fairness and run by religious principles, meant to elevate all inhabitants to a higher platform of God consciousness, right? So this is in a nutshell the teachings of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That's one reason to celebrate him today. And there are many other reasons to celebrate. He was born in India in 1938. I said that's like almost 200 years ago. And he left this planet in 1914, same year that the First World War started. Then he left. But meanwhile, he was very active, highly, highly educated. He knew Bengali, he knew Sanskrit, he knew English, and he was also sending some literature in English to some universities. He sent to the University of Munich, for example, one book. We have a copy of that. And he was translating into Bengali and also into English many books. He was writing many books himself, also writing many beautiful poems and songs in praise of the Lord. So there were hundreds and hundreds of books. And at the same time, he maintained a fairly large family. He was working as a magistrate, like a court judge, and had a very strict schedule when he was taking rest, when he was eating, when he was, studying, when he was meditating, when he did his court justice, and like that. So he was a great acharya. The word acharya means somebody who teaches the rest of the world by his own practical example. We have many people who are good at speaking, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to actually set an example, that they say you put your money where your mouth is, they are very rare. So we have the disciplic succession consisting of great personalities. There are also some great females in our tradition. They're not male-dominated, but for some reasons of history, the most of the great spiritual teacher came from the male species. Means it belongs more to the male dharma to take up the role of leadership and management, etc. In those days, at least. So that was about Bhaktivinoda Thakur and about his philosophy. There's a lot more to say about this, but I think I will stop at this point and leave it open if you have any comments or any questions or something else you would like to know. Yes, sir?
We have a question from online viewers.
Online viewers, okay.
Madhava Puri just asks
for
comments. Based on Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, verse 930, seems like devotees can do immoral actions and still be devotees. I can maybe read the text of this verse. Even if the most sinful person worships me with no other desire than to please me, I consider the person to be my devotee, as he has fixed himself completely in me. And in purport, there's like what happens if devotee acts in wrong way. So he is respected as a devotee because of his devotee qualities. It is a command. Not doing so is offense. My order is the authority. So he should be considered a devotee in the portion where he worships you, and as a non-devotee in that portion where he commits adultery. It's a question. No, he should be considered as a devotee in all his parts. You should not see his bad qualities at all. He's completely convinced. Yeah. He makes the splendid resolution. I will go to hell for my sinful actions, which are hard to give up, but I will not give up the dedicated worship of Krishna. So this is commentary from
okay. Good. Does anyone understand anything of this? No. What basically said is that if somebody's dirty, and like you've been going and mocking the poo from the cows and the horses, and you go and stand in the shower, and then somebody comes in the room and says, "Hey, you're dirty." What are you talking about? I'm in the shower. So why do you criticize? If I stay in the shower long enough, I will be pure. So the same goes for a devotee, like the verse I was quoting, in this endeavor. So as long as you endeavor in the right direction, you may not be immediately successful because we are carrying imprints from so many lifetimes. You may call it dirt if you want, egoistic thoughts and like that. So that's natural. It's not so easy to be a pure devotee like that. But so we are all, what they call it when you Google, sometimes you get to pages of work in progress or something. We're all work in progress. The main thing is to strive in the right direction. And that's the mentality. And if you do something bad on this journey, it's okay. One part of being merciful to another, if you're a spiritual leader, if you're merciful, you have to tolerate some improper behavior from the practitioner. And even if they do something horrible, a devotee never do anything by malicious intent. They do it out of lapse or out of bad habit or something like that. If they do that, of course, you're forgiven and you just work out. You are still considered a holy person because your intent is to go on like that. And if you do something really horrible, you're the first one to step out and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do this. This is terrible. What shall I do? How can I, remedy this? And you go through all kinds of pains and penances and austerities to remedy the situation. That's the sign of a Vaishnava. We all do mistakes. We can all do sometimes big mistake. It's different if somebody is committing horrible things systematically for a long, long period and try his best or her best to pose as a spiritual person, to try and camouflage all these sins like that. If he or she does that, it's not a theist, it's a demon, it's an atheist, and he deserves to go to hell for innumerable years. But if somebody does something out of accident, and this is very, very clearly explained in the purport of 930, which Mataji is referring to, it's an accidental sin like that. So this is a great spectrum. You have the most horrible thing that can be done, but then you have somebody who does a minor little mistake. I recommend Mataji study the story of Chota Haridas from the Chaitanya Lila. He didn't do a really horrible things, but we can learn how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was playing this out, and then to display the repentant attitude of Chota Haridas, who he says, I don't mind going to hell, I don't mind suffering for millions of lifetimes, as long as I'm able to touch your lotus feet again, like this. So it's allowed to do mistakes, even if they're really gross, heavy, disgusting, bad mistakes. That's one thing. Then you can continue to call yourself a theist, and others can respect you like that. Any other question or comment?
Thank you. Maybe a small question. So we say that whatever happens, whatever we achieve in this life doesn't matter because we go to the next body.
How do you mean doesn't matter?
This is my question actually. Because sometimes we see that some people become musicians from the birth, for example. And there's saying that this comes from the previous life. So the person was a musician for many lives before, and now he continues and plays it for years. He's playing piano and so on. Is my understanding correct that some of experience from this life we can bring to others?
In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that you, the soul, carry your life conception, the subtle body, with the memories to some extent, not the episodic memory that's lost, but your conditioned character and your preferences and your aversions, they're carrying from one body to the next, just like air carries aroma. I think it's a beautiful analogy because air is pure by nature, it doesn't smell, it's pure. But if it flows through a kitchen, it smells food. Nice. If it flows to a flower garden, it smells flowers. If it flows to a toilet, it smells something else. So the air is pure. So you, the pure soul, you carry like an aroma to the next lifetime. Also your skills, your guna and your karma. But the thing is, and I'm having discussions with devotees about this, that you express yourself. You have a certain characteristic or creational nature. Some like to create things like cooking or making music, art, poetry, something which is an expression of yourself, expression of your love for the taster, the seer, the hearer, the smeller, or the toucher, something like that. So as a spirit soul, you have your expression, how to manifest your love for God. You know, you can do it in so many ways. But in this world, we do things in a kind of pervertedly reflected way. So maybe you are into music, even like in a spiritual sense, but that may come out here in this world, like you become a famous glitch or dubstep performer or something like that, doing heavy death metal, or I don't know. Maybe death metal is pleasing to God, I can't say, but it's pretty violent kind of music. But it's music. So you carry these things with you, and then you can refine it. Prabhupada used to say you don't have to change anything. You continue to do what you do, but you do it for Krishna, do it for God. Of course, if your profession is a butcher, you kill cows and pigs in a slaughterhouse, may be hard for you to transform that skill, if you may call it, into something devotional, something spiritual. But I don't know, maybe you're good with knives, so you can cut vegetables and fruit and make a fantastic fruit salad for the devotees and for Krishna, I don't know, without using it to stab an innocent animal and kill it, you know. So we are the soul, and with all its qualities. We have a pure identity, it's called a Svarupa, your own real spiritual form with all the different qualities, and they're meant for the pleasure of God and devotees like that. You may use such skills to please your employee, and when he's happy, please we give you a paycheck at the end of the month, or you can please your wife or your children or something temporary. You use your skills for any purpose. But it's also stated in the scripture that for one who uses his skills only for the pleasure of God, he doesn't have any other obligations to fulfill, really, to the government or society or state or the employer or family or even whatever it is, because you fulfill your purest and deepest obligation as a part and parcel to the Supreme Personality of God. And that's your constitutional function. It's a function of service. And when you perform that service, you become completely, totally, utterly satisfied. You don't want anything else. That service and the reciprocation. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. All right. These guys are lucky because come from India. Yeah, I mean, we may get a little bit of religion here in the schools. Like, you know, I think you were even teaching religion in Germany, like Christianity even. You know, but in Sweden, most of the time, they first stopped calling it Christianity, then they call it science of religion or faith, and now I think they skipped it altogether. So if you teach religion in Swedish school, you can go to jail, more or less. I'm not sure, but in America, it's more or less. But in India, you know, you get it from grandfather, grandmother, parents, reincarnation, all these wonderful gods, all the different rituals, all the different colors and the flavors and the fragrances and it's, and one thing I don't really understand is why you guys come here to Sweden. It's up to you, can explain it to yourself. Sometimes Indian people, it's hard, you know, it's a big country and it's a lot of tough times, you know, making a living, because that's like over 1 billion people in that area. So sometimes we think, well, I get a high education, because they're going to want some of the best universities in India too. So people who are educated in India, they are really praised internationally. All the, you know, Microsoft and Google and IBM, they all want Indians because they're so smart. They go do things like maybe you're even engaged in computers or IT, are you?
No, I'm a structural engineer, a civil engineer.
Civil engineer, okay, that's next to it. I'm also a civil engineer, but I'm not Indian, as you can see. Maybe I was an Indian last life, but I made a mistake, so I had to take a birth as a Swedish person. So, but they're very smart. So, but I think, well, I go to the West, I get a good job, and they make more money. Relatives, in India, you're paid in rupees. In America, you're paid in dollars or in euros. And so that's more money, so they can send to grandfather and mother and father and like that. But then they form a family. And then the kids, they grow up and they go to the Swedish schools and become complete atheists, if you're unlucky. I say, oh my God, why did we leave India? We need to give them more and more culture. So it comes with a high price. And then it comes, oh, I want to transgender. I identify myself as a boy. So, you know, all these things are happening, you know, even to Indian children. It's terrible. It's horrible. So one has to be careful. And I have one friend in Denmark, his name is Gornitai. He's doing a wonderful job of having a Sunday school, Saturday and Sunday. He does on Zoom meeting with all the kids, teaching them verses and philosophy, engaging them. He's brilliant. And all the parents that love it because they can compensate for all this crap that they're learning in the Swedish schools nowadays. So everything comes with a price. We have to save the children, you know. Sometimes I met with Indian families. I said, this is too much. I'm moving back. And they pack everything and then go back. Maybe they get a job not so well paid, but at least they have a temple in every village. And like in Vrindavan, they have 5,000 temples. So,
Sense of belonging.
huh?
A sense of belonging is what.
Sense of belonging, yeah, exactly. So I used to say, if you're born in India or in the Indian body, it's like winning the lottery. You get it, you know. You win the lottery. I mean, just to be a human being is like winning the lottery because we can ask these questions. What's the purpose of life? Why is there suffering? You know, what's the meaning of me? You know, what's happening after death? But if you take your birth in an Indian body, it's like winning the first prize of the lottery. You know, you can't get any better than that because you get it from your parents. So we have to do the best like this. Okay, should we end here maybe? Yes? What's the next point of the agenda?
Aratya. Puja and Aratya.
You go to do the whole full kit here, okay?
Yeah, but can you do the puja?
I do whatever you want me to do. I'm your servant. Just tell me.
You need to prepare the
I can wash the dishes. That's fine.
Thank you for the lecture.
Thank you.
Now we're preparing the plate for the puja.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we have a little break and Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, ready for this?
Yeah. I'll be able to help from you. Thank you. Kiba Jayo Jayo Gora Chander Arati Koshobha Kiba Jayo Jayo Gora Chander Arati Koshobha Janavita Tavane Jagamanaloba Navita Tavane Jagamanaloba Janavita Tavane Jagamanaloba Janavita Tavane Jagamanaloba Gaurangera Rotik Shobha Jaga Janamanaloba Gaurangera Rotik Shobha Jaga Janamanaloba Rotik Shobha Jaga Janamanaloba Haribol, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribol, Nitai Gora, Haribol, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribol. Dakini Nitai Chan, Bamigadadhara, Dakini Nitai Chan, Bamigadadhara, Nikate Advaita Shrini, Vasa Chatradhara, Nikate Advaita Shrini, Vasa Chatradhara, Vashi Yachi Gora Chan, Ratna Simhasane, Vashi Yachi Gora Chan, Ratna Simhasane, Arati Korena Brahma, Adi Devagane, Adi Devagane, Narari Adikori, Chamaradulaya, Hari Adikori, Chamaradulaya, Sanjaya Mukunda Basu, Goshadigaya, Shanka Baje Ganta Baje, Baje Karatala, Baje Ganta Baje, Baje Karatala, Mathura Mridanga Baje, Paramarasalam, Shanka Baje Ganta Baje, Madhur 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 Baje, Ganta Baje, Madhur 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 Baje, Shanka baje, ganta baje, madhur, madhur, madhur baje. Hari bol, hari bol, hari bol, Nitai Gora hari bol, Nitai Gora hari bol, hari bol, hari bol, Nitai Gora hari bol. Bahu koti chandra jini, vadana ujvala. Bahu koti chandra jini, vadana ujvala. Gala deshe banamala, kore jalamala. Gala deshe banamala, kore jalamala. Shiva Shukanarada, Premi Gada Gada. Shiva Gada Gada, Bhakti Vinoda De, Gora Rasampada, Bhakti Vinoda De, Gora Rasampada. Kiba Jayo, Jayo Gora Chander, Arati Koshobha. Arati Koshobha. Janavita-tavane, Jagamanalobha. Janavita-tavane, Jagamanalobha. Gaurangera rotik shobha, Jaga Janamanalobha. Gaurangera rotik shobha, Jaga Janamanalobha. Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Ram Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Haribol, 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 Nitai Gora Haribol. Haribol, Haribol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Could you read the verse? Yes.
Jani Chalila Pravishtam Vishnu Paramaham Sabaradi Chaya Sutara Mind Rishla Boycharna Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Triranga Swami Prabhupada. Jani Chalila Pravishtam Vishnu Paramaham Sabaradi Chaya Sutara Sutara Shishimana Swami Grace Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada ki Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Skam Diviti Founder Acharya Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Se Kosha Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasthi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamkund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mathura Dham ki jai. Dwaraka Dham ki jai. Mayapur Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Jagannath Swami ki jai. Ganga Maya Yamuna Maya ki jai. Tulasi Maharana Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Harinam Sankirtana ki jai. Go Premanande. All glories to the Sema devotees. All glories to the Sema devotees. All glories to the Sema devotees. Glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Shri Prabhupada. Namaste. Or
It's a while Namaste.
Okay.
With the offering. Usually Matagema, since the Nrishim Kapanam here. So a little break to find her. Also have printouts.
прочитать. Дальше прочитать. Как он... Yeah. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Namaste Narasimhaya. La la de da da ime. Namaste Narasimhaya. La la de da da ime. Hiranyakashipu Vakshaha. Shila Sankana Kalaye. Ito Narsimho Parato Narsimho. Yato Yato Yamitato Narsimho. Bahir Narsimho Hidaye Narsimho. Nirsimhamadin Sharanam Prapade. Tavakara Kamalavare Nakama Bhukashingram. Pandita Hiranyakashipu Danubringam. Desagatita Narari Upam. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Abhukashingam. Lalita Hiranyakashipu Danubringam. Desagadita Narari Upa. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Narsimhadev. Jaya Narsimhadev. Jaya Narsimhadev. Jaya Narsimhadev. Jaya Narsimhadev. Jaya Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada. Shila Prabhupada. Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada. Shila Prabhupada. I You want to? Yeah, okay. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prashaine Irishensha Shunyabari Prasata Deshataine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadam Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadam Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadam Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadam Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jai Ki Jai Hari Bol
give you the mic.
Hare Krishna, dear guests, devotees, thank you for coming. This is the end of our program. We will have prasadam now. Hare Krishna, and thank you, the viewers online, for joining. Hare Krishna.